Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Eternal Ride. This past Sunday, whenever we're having Bible class at church, we were talking about James chapter 3 and how important it is to be a teacher, but to be a teacher by our example. And one of the things that we were looking at was how important it is for the things that come out of our mouths to be in line, I guess, with how God would want us to live. The passage in James chapter 3, it says, starting in verse 2, it says, "We all stumble in many ways, and anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect, able to keep their whole body in check." And what does that mean exactly? I mean, you think about if you're perfect, able to keep your whole body in check, and we know that by what we say, I think that tells us that what comes out of our mouth is truly an overflow of what's in our heart and what's in our mind. And so whenever we're thinking about teaching, we're thinking about teaching by example, and people are always watching us. We're going to have people watching us in every aspect of our lives, from our kids to our grandkids to our friends, to coworkers, people that we're just acquaintances with, people that are in the same business as us. I know that there are always people that are watching us, and they're learning by our example. They're learning by the things that we say, how a Christian behaves, whether positively or negatively. And in this same chapter, just a few verses down in verse 6, it says, the tongue let's back up to verse 5. "Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell." And when you think about that, when you think about how just something little that you say can spark a whole forest, something little that comes out of our mouth can be so negative to somebody else around you. It can also be something that is so positive to somebody around you. Something that they see, hey, this guy's different. I can tell they're different because how they respond in a negative situation, how they respond in a difficult, a trying time, how they respond in tragedy, and how they respond in loss. You can see how being a great example in those situations can be a positive to those that are watching you, how it could build them up and help them know that Christians should act differently in those scenarios. But also, whenever we react wrongly in those scenarios, in a negative situation, and we react negatively, the things that come out of our mouths can cause so much damage to those people around us. We've called ourselves Christians. We've called ourselves followers of Christ. And whenever we let things come out of our mouths that tear other people down, when we let things come out of our mouths that can destroy somebody else's hope of having a walk with Christ, that's that big forest fire. That's that thing that can really, really cause problems. But the whole idea of this, taming the tongue, is for us to be able to teach by our example, teach by the things that we do. And after class was over, I'm talking to a buddy of mine, Jet McCoy, and he said, it's interesting in James 3, how James 3, where it's talking about taming the tongue and taming the tongue and on how we're being an example to the people around us, how it's bookended by faith and deeds, faith and action, and how important it is for us to teach people around us about our faith by what we do. So I want to back up to James chapter 2, starting in verse 14. It says, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such a faith save them? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." I mean, our faith is speaking volumes through our actions. how we treat other people, how we treat other people that are in need, how we treat other people that are having a bad day and maybe they come across negatively to us. Do we come back at them with a negative attitude, or do we show kindness and do we show mercy to somebody who's going through a tough time? And like you said, this was bookended. If you look over in James chapter 3, starting in verse 13, it says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it off by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and every evil practice." Verse 17, "But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere, peacemakers who sow and reap a harvest of righteousness." When you look at how this is framed together, you can't help but to think it's in perfect unity. For us to have the kind of heart that the things that flow out of us are positive. The things that blow out of us are humility. The things that flow out of us are building each other up and considerate and submissive and full of mercy and full of good fruit and impartial and sincere. When people see those kinds of things flowing out of you, they're going to say, all right, there's something different about that person. There's something different about them. And why are they different? Because they're a follower of Christ. We shouldn't look like the rest of the world. We shouldn't look like those worldly things that were mentioned in verse 15. We shouldn't be looking. We shouldn't be looking like the rest of the world, because we're not of this world. We are a follower of Christ, and we have something way greater to look forward to in our future than what is happening on this earth. No matter what kind of a bad day we're having, no matter what kind of trouble that we're having at our job, or what kind of trouble we're having with our families, we still need to have our heart right, so that way when things come out of us, it's going to build up the people that are around us. Another buddy, Alan Simpson, he gave me this quote. He said, "What you do speaks so loudly that I can barely hear what you say." And it took me a minute to kind of get that to sink in. What you do speaks so loudly that I can barely hear what you say. And I can stand here all day long with this Bible in my hand, and I can preach to you, and I can tell you, what the Word says and how you're supposed to be living your life and what are the things you're supposed to be doing to be right with God. But if my example is not what it should be, and the things that are flowing out of me are not what they should be in line with being a follower of Christ, then who's going to listen to me? And I pray that if you're like me and you've given your life to Christ, I pray that you have fully submitted to Him. And if you fully submitted to Him and allowed Him to mold you and shape you to how He needs you to be, then the things that flow out of you are just going to come with compassion. They're going to come with sincerity. They're going to come with humility. They're going to come in a way that's going to build people up around you. And if you've not given your life to Christ yet, today's the day. Submit to Him. Give your life to Him. Follow Him. And let Him start molding you and shaping you into the person that He wants you to be to serve Him best. Until next time, I hope you're blessed in all that you do.